Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's Wednesday Wisdom guest. But first, as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, these are all companies that I used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. So don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give them all their quick shout out. Here we go. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, more customization. Go to hometownticketing.com. Let them help you make the best online ticketing solution. hometownticketing.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video displays. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, see their tables and their boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Not only generates income for your department, but it'll create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Now we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your athletes, your parents, your coaches, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey. It's going to connect you with the complainers you already hear about, but it'll also connect you to the 98% of your families that support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. We want to say thanks to Gipper, the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. Go to Gipper.com. Their team's going to help you create world-class content that will help you celebrate your teams and promote your athletes. Gipper's used and trusted by over 3,000 high school and college programs. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started today. We also want to say thank you to Home Campus. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform. It's also your one-stop for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't use that every single day? Uploading digital forms and signatures, communicating with parents and coaches, you name it, Home Campus does it. I used it every single day. Go to homecampus.com to get started. That's homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school is a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids up to their highest level. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They have a mission to help you bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. We want to thank Snap Raise. If you've spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser in the past and got little, if any, return, go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. Our parents loved it. Our coaches loved it. What's more, it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can also check out Snap Manage, Snap Store, FanX, and their other platforms. But Snap Raise, like I said, it's the best online fundraiser out there. Go to snapraise.com to get started. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We truly have a friend of the show today. Regular listeners will recognize her from her contributions on this format and also her interview. You might also have seen her nationally on, let's say, another podcast. But welcome back to Wednesday Wisdom, Molly Tomlinson from Deerfield High School. That's in Deerfield, Illinois.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Well, it was so great to connect with you in person, actually, at the national conference back in December. And like I said, you're really raising your profile. It's just great to see the next generation of athletic directors. People are tired of hearing old guys like me. It's bring in a fresh new voice that really does a great job. Molly did a tremendous presentation at our national conference. And anyway, I'm going to get out of the way. Molly, what do you have for our listeners today on Wednesday Wisdom?
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. In my first few years as being an assistant AD, I continue to um, grow, of course, every single day and learn, but also continue to ask the question of how can I help create a culture that is centered on education-based athletics? That has come up a lot. But within that, I'm trying to break it apart a little bit. And, as athletic directors, I believe us to be instrumental when it comes to just creating a positive culture within our programs. So this includes a lot of things, right? Emphasizing teamwork, sportsmanship, but one specific thing is community involvement. And so that's what I really want to focus on today. I really just want to talk about how you can be more of a community-minded athletic director, and some things that we're doing here, but also some things that we look to create to continue to build those relationships.
Now, oh, I was going to say you took a pause there. Share with our listeners just a little bit about your community because, I've worked in small schools, I worked in big public schools and colleges, and good ideas are good ideas. They just have to be tweaked for your environment. So, what sort of community are you working in there at Deerfield?
Yeah, so we're about a half hour north of Chicago. So suburb of Chicago. We have a very highly academically rigorous high school here. We definitely compete on the field and in the pools in a tremendous way as well. But academics are a huge key to just being a student athlete here. I would say we are predominantly a white school. So something that I plan to touch on a little bit today is just focusing on the DEIB work that will continue to drive some of our practices, not only in our school, but our conference as well. We have some schools in our conference who are very similar to us in terms of the socioeconomic makeup of our students, but also we have more diverse schools as well. So we're trying to learn from each other as we go.
Okay.
And we're in terms of enrollment, Jake, we've got about 1,500 students, just to give you an idea.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Well, what sort of things, can our listeners, benefit from your wisdom in building that, better community?
So, okay, think about the community that you're involved in as an athletic director. There's so many key members that make up that community. So I kind of want to go through some of those big stakeholders and just some things that you can do to contribute to, kind of making them a part of your team.
Okay.
And this is in no particular order, because I think I'm going to end with our student athletes. So in no particular order, starting with your alumni. So depending on how old your school is, you want to think about connecting continuously with your alumni. So here at Deerfield, just this year, we had our very first Hall of Fame induction. So it can really simply start with that, right? Maybe you have your Hall of Fame database, and you start by connecting with those stakeholders. You have your Hall of Fame committee that probably also has established a lot of great relationships with alumni. But really keeping them informed. So, maybe you have a monthly newsletter, a weekly newsletter, adding them on that, keeping them informed on what's going on in your department, in the athletic community. Last year's celebration of 50 years of Title IX, we did really a Title IX celebration that attracted a lot of alumni here, both coaches of female sports and female athletes themselves. So continue, don't forget about those alumni once they leave your school. And I really do think it can be more, them connecting more than beyond just a homecoming football game, for example. Okay, so then your actual community members, let's think about them next. So your community members, this encompasses a lot of different people. And depending on where where you live and the makeup of your community, this is going to look different. But I'm thinking first responders, right? Maybe you have a first responder appreciation game and you invite all of them to that game, and you make an announcement maybe at the beginning of the game or at halftime, give them some free food, something like that, to make them feel appreciated. Community members, grandparents, okay? Cannot forget about grandparents. You could have a grandparents day if you want, or a grandparents game where the athletes can invite their grandparents. Cancer awareness games. Unfortunately, cancer is something that it has impacted probably almost everybody in the world. So cancer awareness games, also a nice way to give back to the community, right? In that way. Think about all of the local businesses that you either have a connection with or need to make connections with. Visit those local businesses in person. It could be literally a 2-minute interaction with the manager, or if the manager isn't there, maybe you're dropping off a letter, or you're dropping off a seasonal list of home contests that season and a picture of your logo or a picture of some of your teams during that season, and ask them if they could display it, in their business. A nice way for them to be reminded, of your high school and what's going on. Maybe you have some theme nights that are added onto those calendars so that the community knows, what we're doing each home game. Okay, the next group I thought about was your feeder schools. So think about the middle school. Obviously I work in a high school, so we continuously, yes, think about the elementary schools, but also think about the middle schools. And so how can you establish a positive relationship with them? You can hold things like youth nights, right? Youth nights at your various home contests. You can give the youth who's wearing maybe one of their Deerfield youth soccer jerseys, you can give them a free ticket into the varsity game. No charge. They a lot of times with our specific programs, they will have a youth night and have them, hand out a picture of the team and have the team autograph them for the kids at the end of the game, or have the basketball team do a little shootout or a nice little drill or something before or at the end of the game, just to make that connection with the kids. Bring the kids on the court, have them make the little tunnel, right, during the introductions. They think they're the coolest kids ever, looking up to those high schoolers. So any ways that they can be involved, and make sure that if you don't have a list of the contacts for those coaches of your feeder programs, try to get those. Make sure your coaches do, number one, they should. But the fact that, if the athletic director gets their hands on it and makes that connection too, even better. Next on my list. Okay, next group, we've got the opposing teams and the spectators. We cannot, forget about our guests. So we want to make sure that our facilities are clean so that they feel welcome, that they feel safe. There also needs to be clear communication to those opposing teams and spectators, right? To make sure they know where they're supposed to be sitting, where the locker rooms are, where the restrooms are, things like that. So that, again, they feel welcome and informed when they're at your school. And I would, like I said this before, treating them like your guests, but you really do want to treat them like your guests, whether it's the crosstown rival or not, but really treat them like you would anybody else. I guess opposing teams, you can also think about the officials as well, but think about the officials and your game personnel. Okay, official shortage, it's real in pretty much every single sport. So why would we treat them poorly and make them feel unwelcome? That doesn't make sense. So you want to make sure that officials have that clear communication before they even get to your school. What field are they on? What's the number? Who can they contact if they have a question? How do they get paid after the game? Where are the AEDs and, my trainers and things like that? So clear communication, a simple bottle of water. Not all officials bring it, believe it or not, but a simple bottle of water, right as they walk in, and a nice little welcome to your officials is great. An extra nice thing is just a meal ticket for your officials and your game workers. Can't forget about them, right? They're doing the scorebook for 2 games, sometimes 3, depending on the day. So give them some water, give them a meal ticket so that they can, feel welcome and that they're ready to go for the day. Free swag is always nice. Who doesn't like a free t-shirt, free sweatshirt, whatever you are able to provide, they'll appreciate it. Okay, maybe a little bit more importantly, my next category are the coaches and your teachers. So coaches, we have a lot of coaches that are out of the building coaches who don't teach in the building, but we also have some coaches who do. But you also want to think about those teachers that don't coach. You might have a lot of teachers out there that maybe want to coach down the road. So you kind of want to give them a glimpse into what your athletic department is about so that when that day comes, that they want to maybe join or have the opportunity to, or maybe, family life is a better situation that they can get away and coach, that they want to be a part of your program. So you want to, again, the free swag, I keep going back to that, but you want to make sure your coaches get some free swag, that they don't have to pay for things to represent their team. We do seasonal appreciation breakfasts here. So after each season, fall, winter, and spring, in the mornings, we just do a free breakfast for all student athletes in that season and all coaches. Give them some free food. We give each head coach an opportunity to just share some highlights of their season, and they're on their way. So again, make them feel appreciated. It's always great to check in with your coaches. I think it's a gimme that during season you should be checking in with your coaches, but it is nice to have those check-ins, whether it's an email, a check-in in the hallway, stop by their office, see how they're doing in the off season, beginning of the year, see how their summer was. So kind of make it a little bit more personal and not just, oh, I only talk to you when it's soccer season. Make sure that they know that they can come talk to you for absolutely anything. Going back to the teachers who don't coach, a lot of our programs do teacher appreciation games, right? Just a nice way to bring those teachers into our softball dugout that they may have never been in before. Give them a goodie bag, maybe that has a little pamphlet more about our program, our schedule for the rest of the season. Have them hang out, during warm-ups, even during the game. If you have a space designated for them, if they can see your craft and kind of watch your students, do their thing, they love it. A lot of them haven't really been exposed to things like that. So it's a cool concept. And they typically walk away with a little bit more appreciation for coaches and for our department. Okay, last but not least, our student athletes. I could probably do 10 episodes on this just to, regarding how to make them feel like a part of your community. But okay, think about your student athletes. There's a lot of ways you can think about this. The way I thought about this was their bodies and their minds. Because like the physical sense is part of their bodies, right? So we always want to encourage our coaches to find a healthy balance between academics, sports, family, and hobbies. I had mentioned that Deerfield's a rigorous academic school. And that's real, and that can really weigh heavy on a lot of people. So finding a nice healthy balance of, okay, getting into your, top 3 schools. If you don't get into them, it's not the end of the world. Kind of, teaching them the skills of what it means to fail, and kind of how those coping skills, right, that can kind of send them into success once high school is over. That's what we want to try to establish during season and out of season. The body relates to nutrition, right? So we always want to encourage them to find just a healthy way to put energy into their body. And then in season and out of season, the usual things that coaches do, right? Proper training techniques, strength and conditioning training, things like that. And lastly, if we're thinking about the mind of the student athlete, you want to think about, mental health, right? Mental health matters. It is excruciating. It's really, really, really important in every single school with every single person, not just athletes, of course, but mental health matters. So making sure they know that, but they have a place to talk about it. And you want to make sure that your athletic department is a space where they're able to kind of talk about how academics are really hard and try to talk about how they still want to play or try to play a sport in college and how they can actually do that. Or how the fact that maybe they don't want to play sports in college and they still want to have fun doing it while they're here and how they can still do that. So mental health matters. I definitely want to give a quick plug for Morgan's Message, something that we've adapted and we're an ambassador to. A lot of high schools, and I would say mostly universities, have adapted Morgan's Message in some way. And Morgan, just check it out online, morgansmessage.org. But we've created a way to bring Morgan's Message into our school, which bottom line is really just a way to try to end the stigma that you can't talk about mental health, right? We want to end that. So we're trying to create a dedication game for each season. So we had a swim meet, we had a boys basketball game where it's dedicated to mental health. Each player gets a t-shirt that has something about mental health on there. We, will sell some t-shirts as well and stickers and things like that, and make a lot of announcements surrounded by, how important mental health is. Providing them with some local resources, right? Not just in the school of who they can go to, that your typical guidance counselors and social workers, but a list of local resources outside of school that the kids can go to as well. There's an app that's called How We Feel. That's it's a free, easy app to use. That's an app that I would definitely recommend anyone downloads. That's just a nice way that you can do kind of a daily self-check about how you're doing, and relates to mental health in the best way, and a nice way that the student athletes can kind of still keep it personal, but still be honest with how they're doing every day. So again, I could go on and on about all of the major stakeholders. Like I forgot to mention our booster club and how great they are, and how you can make a connection, with them. But there's a lot that goes into your department beyond just your four walls of your school. So it's always important to think about. Again, we're continuously growing here, so community involvement's extra important, just to make everyone feel a part of Deerfield athletics. So just some ideas that I'm hoping can help.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That was a full season of tips. I hope our listeners are writing them down. Just all great stuff. I was making notes. I said, boy, I got to comment on that. I got to comment on that. But no, they were just all great. I will mention one thing that I really hadn't thought about that is so important. You talked about, game management and treating the visiting team, and you specifically used the word guests. It says guests up on the scoreboard almost all the time. And if you invited a guest to your home, you wouldn't, treat them poorly. And I think not enough athletic directors or coaches embrace that idea. Okay, we want to beat these people, but they're our guests. So, let's treat them right. Molly, just again, really appreciate you sharing everything. A real masterclass on athletic culture and reaching out to the communities. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and add you to their network, and listeners, I really think you should, what's the best way they can get a hold of Molly Tomlinson?
Yep, don't hesitate. If you just Google Deerfield High School Warrior Athletics, you'll find my email on there. It's mtomlinson at DIST113.org.
Okay. Well, Molly Tomlinson, Deerfield High School, thanks so much for sharing with us, and all the best as we continue to hopefully wrap up winter sports and get involved with spring sports across the country.
Yes, awesome. Thanks always, Jake.
Hey, for our listeners, we do this every single week, and we also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Of course, we appreciate you listening. Come back next Wednesday for another great Wednesday Wisdom segment, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, guess what? We're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. So, hey, come on, stick around. Go visit these sponsors. They are all companies that can help you do your job better. Let's go and start with Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. If you're not using Hometown, I think you're really missing out. Go to hometownticketing.com. We want to thank Snap Raise, hands down, the best fundraising platform out there. They even have a program where they will give you your money up front before you actually start your fundraiser. Nobody else does that. Go to snapraise.com to get started. I want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Looking for a great way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame? Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to thank Gipper, the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. Go to Gipper.com to get started. Mention the podcast, they'll give you a nice discount. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and change the way you see the game. That's Huddle.com. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. At my school, we use surveys for everything, for coaches, for kids, teachers, parents, and the information that comes back is almost always over the top positive. But it gives you that data that you can share with a frustrated parent or maybe your principal or your school board. You'll find it at athleticsurveys.com. We also want to thank Home Campus. If you're an athletic director, you will use Home Campus every single day. It's scheduling, it's student athlete eligibility, it's parents, it's coaches, it's kids, it's rosters, it's your state association. Go to homecampus.com to find out more. And finally, Sideline Interactive. Probably the best purchase I ever made as an athletic director was my Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's it for this week's Wednesday Wisdom. Come back next week for another great guest on the Educational 80 podcast. We'll see you later.